Space, the final frontier. Space Station Ashland sits on the edge of Federation space with its companion ship, the USS Dilamus Christian. The space around them is full of mystery and strange wonders, where secrets are kept and danger lurks around every corner. The crew of the Dilamus Christian must navigate treacherous waters as they work to protect the Federation. But as they peer into the unknown, they will discover that the line between friend and foe is not always clear. They will be tested like never before and will face challenges that will push them to their limits. Join us on this adventure as we explore the farthest reaches of space and uncover the hidden truths that lie within the shadows. Tabletop Journeys presents Star Trek Preservations.
Welcome, travelers. I'm Lee Wanika of Tabletop Journeys, and this is Star Trek Preservations. We're joined today by our erstwhile cast and crew of the Dilamus Christian as we are in our ultimate episode, our season ender, our grand finale for season 2 of our actual play. We're going to get into those details in a moment, but most importantly, I want to take the time to say thank you to the audience for listening to us over the past year, sticking with us, sticking with the crew. We've had a lot of fun playing this game. We've had a lot of fun recording these episodes, and we really look forward to this episode specifically and what's coming up in season 3. So it should be exciting and love to get your thoughts on that. So be sure if there's things you like, things you want to see more of, even if you just want to kibitz with us, be sure to throw those comments wherever you see this posted so we can continue the conversation. With that said, I'm going to kick things right over to our cast, and we'll start with the CEO of our famous and wonderful ship.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Harney, and I am playing Commander Sabian Tobor, the Joint Trill Commanding Officer of the USS Dilamus Christian, a Federation Saber-class starship.
Hi, I'm Adam Scaramella, and I portray Ocean Chilzilwer, the Dilamus Christian's Andorian First Officer.
Hi, I'm David Rideout. I play Avidian Tanari, the ship's chief engineer, and atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. We're ready to go.
And I'm Glenn Myers. I play Lieutenant Camdrel Najar, the half-Betazoid Chief of Security.
Excellent. When last we left our crew about a month ago, they were dropping off the Mako platoon that they had rescued from a fate worse than death. At this point, the Makos are currently residing at Aslan Station, and over that month, there would have been a lot of discussions where the crew would have the ability to perhaps sway opinions or make suggestions for where they think or how they think the Makos and Colonel Hawks should be handled, because you've got roughly 35 to 40 people displaced. They are Earth citizens from before the current United Federation of Planets, but they were military folks. They served. They were ones who were on the front lines in what became the First Earth Romulan War. So you've got a platoon of veterans lost to time, effectively, that are back and are looking for a place and a purpose. And that's where we'll open. Just casual conversation on the bridge of the Dilamus Christian. Lieutenant Tanari, you're on the bridge, just checking some specs from the engineering bridge station at this point in time. It's more of a general discussion. It's not secured information. It's more general feelings. And then perhaps one or all of you might take other means to convince other folks. But we enter the scene with a total of 3 threat per player. Season finale, after all. So that is a total of 12 threat, if I'm doing my math correctly. I can math from time to time. There currently is no momentum. There are 12 threat on board, and the scene opens on the bridge. However, the Dilamus Christian is currently at Aslan Station. You're not inside docked, but you are outside Aslan Station at this point, and that's where the conversation comes in. I'm going to kick it right over to the crew. Basically, the conversation has been going on for a little bit, talking about the Makos and what their options are.
I don't know. On the one hand, sleeping through 200 years of technological and societal advancements and then waking up, that would be, on the one hand, amazing and so much to learn and so exciting, but at the same time, how terrifying must it be for all of them to have no one they've ever known still be alive and everything different?
I can only imagine. I remember hearing about what a shock it was for Commander Scott when he came out of the transporter buffer. And for him, it was only decades.
Yeah, when we sign up, we all know these things are a possibility, but when you actually face them out here in space, it makes it just a little bit more real.
On the other hand, there's still that alien technology the engineer got a hold of for the cryotube. Do you know if the Commodore's going to let us have a crack at it, or are they going to ship that back to Daystrom Institute? Captain?
Unfortunately, we didn't have time to recover them. We obliterated them along with the ship and the planet.
I'd hoped we'd got some of it back.
We have the engineer who jerry-rigged them into the system, and you can debrief him. In fact, I'd like you to download as much information from him as you can scientifically. To Camdrill's point, and the thing that I'm struggling with is these individuals, these soldiers, these warriors from another time, they are perfect for our needs in dealing with this Epsilon project. But they are in such a vulnerable position that I don't know how we could ethically ask them if they want to join us in our endeavor. I don't know if they can properly give truly informed consent since they have missed so much of the last century.
Well, sir, I definitely hear what you're saying, but I would contend that, though certainly not the Starfleet we serve today, but officers and military soldiers of what came before, they don't have anything left that they are attached to anyway. I think leaving them with no purpose, particularly for people who signed up to have a purpose, that's what Starfleet and the military are, would be more ethically damning to them and more mentally and socially damning to them than not. The fact that they're perfect for this, and they do have the training and discipline to need something to serve. This could be perfect for them.
I agree on that point, but the problem, I have a unique perspective in that I actually remember a time before the Federation existed and before Starfleet was what it was. And it is, dare I say, it could be alien to us who have grown up, who went through the academy, who know what Starfleet is. They don't have any of that. And that presents a dangerous, unknown variable into the equation.
Indeed, but none of them are in a position where they would even be capable, even if we were willing, to take command or lead a situation. So as long as they were working with other Starfleet personnel to train them and help them adjust and supervise, obviously start out with low security, low threat, to get a feeling and a sense for them, just like you would for any new recruit, because we don't really know these people. But
yes, I'm just worried that their preponderance to shoot first and ask questions later. It takes a lot to train sentient and sapient beings to not respond instinctually. And from what I remember, this was an era of great unknown in Earthers' time and history. A lot of threats. The sphere builders attacked Earth itself. There's a lot of downright anger and hatred and, dare I say, bigotry against aliens that existed and permeated that society at the time. Those of us who weren't Vulcan, who watched the Federation, watched Earthers claw their way out of the stars, were, shall I say, we were divided on what the results were going to be.
We were pretty certain they would meet an untimely death.
Fortunately, they proved us wrong. And right.
I believe one of the things they've also proven over the centuries, Commander, if I might defend half of my own heritage, is to be exceptionally adaptable and more than strong enough to learn quickly and adjust to new circumstances.
I know, that's what makes that half of your species such a dangerous threat to the galaxy.
What about their legal status? Technically, they're not citizens of the Federation either. Besides the ethical ramifications, legally, do we have the right to ask them?
If I may, sir. Lieutenant Stavik turns her chair slightly so they engage in the conversation as well. I believe that as Earth citizens, when the Federation was formed, the Charter basically said unless you were from a colony world, which may have had to sign on separately, if you're from Earth, Earth is a member of the Federation. In theory, asleep, active or not, they are United Federation of Planets citizens. What their status within the military, their time, or within Starfleet at this time is, of course, some question of legal concern. But even that, since the Makos historically were folded into Starfleet security upon the conclusion of those accords, they are technically part of Starfleet security. And as I see the records, they were not declared lost in action for 20 years after they were lost. That makes them Starfleet personnel.
And even if that weren't the case, Starfleet has on more than one occasion allowed non-Federation members to join. Most famously, the refugee Bajorans have been allowed to serve. So that is, I think, the least of the challenges being presented. But, of course, it's all hypothetical until someone actually talks to Colonel Hawks and his men and see what they actually want to do.
This is also assuming that Starfleet will want to retain them. As you've said before, as they've said, these are soldiers from a time when Starfleet had a military arm. There is no military arm anymore. They've also demonstrated a tendency to think outside the box, to use non-approved methods. I think that has value, but there are those in Starfleet who will disagree.
Yes, but we're not that far out after the Dominion War, and there are some people who are thinking Starfleet needs a military arm.
Particularly given the circumstances we find ourselves in now with species Epsilon.
Yes, but one thing also to consider, Lieutenant, is that though I've assembled this crew and provided us the space to accomplish our mission, there's a reason why Commodore Pritchard is Commodore Pritchard and not Admiral Pritchard. Because he stands as one of the few lone voices in the wilderness. There's a great temptation, both here in Starfleet and in the Federation in general, that they want to they want to heal and go back to the way things were before the Dominion War. They don't want to militarize. They want to get back to exploring the galaxy and studying science and nebulas and not training soldiers and battle groups and task forces and counting the dead and sending letters to parents and grieving families. And I am afraid that the Makos are going to get used as a pawn in this game that the Commodore and I have been playing for many years now.
Ensign Lusan turns their chair and says, "Sir, if I may, I've been a roommate of Ensign Tapreen in security for the entirety of my time here on board the Dilamus Christian. He was the security officer who had one of those creatures on his helmet, and were it not for the timely intervention of Lieutenant Najjar, who knows what would have happened to them. It may not be our best look, sir, but if I were asked to be honest, I would rather have a few of those Makos who are willing to pull the trigger a little faster, as long as we're dealing with these creatures. Not everybody can be Lieutenant Najjar. He's the decision maker, and he just makes things happen. And I'm not saying anybody else doesn't, but having 30 to 40 more folks who are willing to do that, I think we're in a fight that we could use that kind of help."
A valid opinion, Ensign.
Najjar blushes slightly, looks embarrassed, and his eyes are on the table.
About this time, Lieutenant Stavin says, "Sir, I have a message for you from Commodore Pritchard."
I'll take it in my ready room.
Excellent.
Mr. Ocean, you have the bridge.
When you get there, Pritchard simply says to you, "We have a couple things that are coming up in the next few days that are going to be important. I need you and your senior team to be ready. May need your advice and consultation on some of these topics, not the least of which is disposition of the Makos. You've had them on board your ship. You've dealt with them. You've seen more about them in this moment than anybody else. So I think it'd be important to have you and your crew's interactions involved in that discussion. So be ready for that, if you will."
Of course, Commodore. Real quickly, sir. What do you know about the Tigers from the war?
I am not a historian by trade. I am a scientist before I moved into command. So unfortunately, I know very little. My inquisitive mind definitely is interested in whatever technology kept them asleep for so long, and in what appears to be, after we were looking at their medical scans, great physical shape and repair. It is bizarre to me that they would have the wherewithal to do that.
Mr. Tenari debriefing their engineer on the nature of the technology in question. Unfortunately, due to the circumstances we were involved, we were not able to recover the technology more than what we have from scans.
Understood. Commander, your crew has done an exceptional job. No matter what has been said or will be said, know that's my true feelings on the matter.
Thank you, sir.
Pritchard,
So when did you get the orders?
Screen's cut.
Well,
Why did you said the screen cuts?
Yep.
Okay. So like they're gone now?
Yep.
And I'm not there because this is in your ready room. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was about to say, why does it sound like we're about to get thrown under the bus?
so I come back out onto the bridge. Mr. Lusan, how far are we out from Aslan?
No, you're there. You're docked outside the station. You're like right there.
Oh, never mind.
At this point, Lieutenant Tenari, you get a message on your screen from your engineering team, and in combination with that, there is a message on Lieutenant Commander Ocean's screen. Basically, your quartermaster is provided you with the list of resupply things that need to be done. There's some general maintenance that needs to be done on the DC. The mass transports that were just done have taxed a couple systems. They would like to run some significant diagnostics and make some general update and repairs. Almost the side of upgrades. They're not technically upgrading the systems, but there's some parts replacements that need to be done. General protocol for that level of work, because it can take a little bit of time, is to do so in station versus outside the station. It can be done outside of station. It's just a little harder, and it leaves the ship a little bit more vulnerable because certain things will be down at variant times. So typically that would result in you asking to have the ship docked for that work to be done. And similarly, if there's going to be transporter issues, the ship would need to be docked to take on the appropriate supplies and such for Lieutenant Commander Ocean, as far as what your message are. And Lieutenant Commander, you would also get the same message that Tanar is getting, so you will actually see both reports. He only sees his report. So you know what he's getting as he's getting it, but would typically wait for a recommendation, and we'll kick it over to Lieutenant Tanari.
Lieutenant Commander, just got some notification on some repairs that need to be done. Would be easier to do if we were inside dry dock. With your permission.
I'm putting in the request as we speak.
Thank you, sir.
And I am actually doing that. I'm trying to book a docking station. And I'm sorry, the second set of requests that was coming across was from what? For the upgrades? But that was what Tanari was dealing with.
Tanari had the upgrades that your quartermaster said you need to take on supplies, restock supplies. Basically, having 40 extra people on board the ship has reduced raw material stores for replication as well as any regular things. It's also taxed a few of the systems that quartermaster would be dealing with. By being in dry dock, that allows some umbilical hookups, life support systems, things like that. All the normal things that kind of would need to happen after an extended patrol, you're just going to have to do a little earlier. So basically you're getting recommendations from multiple departments to do a dry dock, restock, resupply, just basically anything you would do after patrol.
Okay, so all of it was part and parcel. The way you would describe that, you said I was getting two sets of requests. Yeah. It's all part and parcel. Okay, yes. Then as soon as I started seeing them come in, I would have started the process of requesting the dry dock. So
normally there would not be any particular need for a role for something as mundane as this, but in this particular situation, there is one difficulty because there are a few extra ships in the area around the station. There are a couple ships that are trying to get berth. There's only 2 extra berths. The time is not different, but if you want the DC to get in first, you're going to have to pull some strings.
Yes, so I will start that process, and I think that would probably be a command presence.
I would agree. Your difficulty is only going to be a 2 on this.
Yeah. All right, do I have anything that will play in here? I'm just checking.
Lee, with second edition's rule that you can have 1 assist before it starts requiring additional momentum, can I, once the commander lets me know that we need to dock, I'll assist him in his task?
Mm-hmm. And I am going to buy a die with threat. Let's see. Do I have a focus that would come in? Do not believe that I do. So I have 2 successes.
And I have a 13, so I have 1 success on these assists.
All right, that'll be 1 momentum.
And we'll bank that.
All right.
You do have a momentum, Adam, for your
intent ability. I will use that to gather some information about who else is docking. Are there any notable ships or factions that have docked? Even more specifically, whether or not any of the ships that were on my watch list are currently here.
Ooh, that is a great question. There is a ship that is not typically in the region, and you would actually know that. It is a Starfleet Command vessel, so generally not this far out from Federation core worlds, but it is definitely one that you are aware of. The USS Harrington, NCC 75941. It's an Akira class ship. Way too large to dock inside, but it is a ship that is in the area. It actually arrived a few days ago and has been there. The DC has not had any particular interaction with them, other than it's a bigger ship. It's a scale 5, and it is registered as part of Starfleet Command. So that's probably the most notable vessel that's about. And you would also know that it is under the command of Captain Lee Miru.
So I will continue to prep the appropriate teams on our ship to make ready for docking when we have clearance, let the folks that have been sending their requisitions to me know that they've been approved, do the standard double check to make sure nobody's trying to slip something in, especially from engineering, and then go about my business and wait for the commander to come out of the ready room.
Sure. Commander Tobor, you exit your ready room, come back to the bridge, I assume, after your conversation with Pritchard was cut short on Pritchard's end?
Yep. I kind of like eye contact with Ocean, and I give him the eyebrow.
I will give you a curt nod as if to answer yes to that question.
All right. This is the close of our cold open.
Captain's log. Stardate 58995.9351. After 2 weeks of shore leave on Solon, the Dilamus Christian has received orders to return to Aslan Station, preparing for our upcoming patrol rotation. In light of the recent successes, the Aegis teams assigned to Aslan Station 2382 may prove to be less demanding for our crew than this past year has been. The USS Sagan is en route, returning from its routine patrol of the newly established passage through the nebula. Upon their return and subsequent debriefing, the Dilamus Christian will resume its patrol operations. For now, Commodore Pritchard has requested the senior staff of the Dilamus Christian to accompany him on a tour of the recently inaugurated Regional Command Operations, RCO, levels of the station.
As we open from our credits and this part of things, the Dilamus Christian is docked. Transporters are offline. They are doing their thing. Crews are moving gear. Things are happening. All the things that are supposed to be happening in coordination are moving very smoothly. At this point, Pritchard has asked the senior team to go with him on this tour because you do need a senior staff member on the ship. Lieutenant Narilla is going to stay on board while the rest of you would attend this tour. Any questions? Anything anybody would like to do before they leave on the tour? I should also note for the listening audience, while the cold opening could, under most circumstances, be counted as its own scene, I am not choosing to take away momentum earned for that cold open and considering that part of the overall scene that we are opening with. So I tend to make that distinction more on the basis of acts versus scenes. As far as when I take away momentum, a minor adjustment I make to the textbook rule, because I think there can be multiple scenes in an act, and I think the rise and fall of threat and momentum really falls within an act versus within an individual scene. That's just how I tend to run that, to be fairly consistent. Though there are times where I will have individual scenes within an act, generally speaking, I make those changes by act, not by scene. That said, anybody have anything that they wanted to do or take care of before they begin the tour?
I'm good. Let's put on our walking shoes and head on over.
All right. So as the senior staff walks through the gangplank, you meet up with Commodore Pritchard. As you go to the turbo lift, you all recognize that there are 4 security officers that have entered the hall to make sure that everybody gets on the turbo lift.
When you say make sure, is that to say based on their body language, security protocol, etc., that it looks like they are like, these mother effers better get on the elevator, they're not allowed anywhere else in the ship? Is this an enforced security action or a courtesy escort? Also, while assessing them, Najjar scans them to make sure that they're people and not epsilons.
Okay. That is a given. They are not coming across with the telltale signs of infection. I will say I would need you to make a roll to determine the specifics of what you mentioned. It's only a 1, however.
So, insight security?
Sure.
Since it's only a 1, I won't add to the threat pool. I'll risk the complications. Dun dun dun. 2 dice. That is 2 successes with a 9 and a 16.
Excellent. With 2 successes, that's going to give you 1 momentum, by the way. Let me add that. Let me know if you wish to utilize that momentum after I answer the base question. They are absolutely not in an enforced security posture, but they are far from a courtesy escort also. They are somewhere right in the middle of their job is to escort you, but there doesn't appear to be any need for aggression. But they are also, just based on your general knowledge of the station, not station personnel. And you have 1 momentum. Would you wish to bank that? or would you like to use that for some other purpose?
So we're on the station, being escorted by security personnel not of the station.
Correct.
Do they carry any insignia or patches? Or no, we don't do. Starfleet doesn't do patches. There's nothing that tells you where somebody serves or what ship you're on or anything, is there?
Nope. Terrible, and it's a hallmark of a non-military organization, by the way.
Yeah. They don't even have paddock and barb hats to wear around.
Yeah, right? Hang on one second. Dave?
Is it a little too late to ask if I could have brought one of the Epsilon tricorders with me?
It is too late to ask, but I am happy to let you, provided Glenn answers the question about momentum, spend the appropriate momentum for an opportunity spend.
I'll put that to the group.
I don't see anything else from this that I'm specifically going to get out of just side-eyeing these security guys that's worth spending the momentum, so I'm fine with it, Dave.
Okay.
Aslan Station is our primary base. It is as secure and as security conscious of Epsilon infiltration as any other place in the Federation other than probably our ship. I think it would be a waste to bring it because everyone's been scanned umpteen times already.
Okay. Adam?
I agree. I actually have not brought a scanner, nor am I armed.
But are you good with me spending a momentum to bring one of the Epsilon tricorders with me?
I would tend to agree that the only reason to bring it is if we believe that we want to specifically give it to Pritchard.
So is that basically a no? I'm
indifferent. I can see the argument either way.
Narratively, it makes sense. The fact that you didn't think about it until now means Maury was actually comfortable because Aslan's our base of operations.
Considering I didn't think about it till now, then I will not spend the momentum.
And to be fair, that's why I said it's too late to ask for it, but an opportunity spend grants you that ability mechanically. Oh, well, Tenari had a forethought, we just didn't show it on camera yet, kind of thing. So I'd have been fine if you were willing to make the spend, but narratively, you're correct. Things seem pretty normal. You had no inkling that there's any kind of Alfred Hitchcock, H.P. Lovecraft shit going on right up until that moment.
All right. Najjar will go ahead then, and just with a follow-up question, or just opening conversation with him as we head towards the turbo lift. I know most of the security personnel in the station.
Hang on one second, Glenn. Before you do that, please note, the security was not close enough to talk to you. They were out of sight until after you're on the turbo lift. You turned around and saw that they were basically shadowing you from outside of view until you got on the turbo lift. Then they stood there, watched to make sure nobody went anywhere other than the turbo lift. So they weren't in communication range. You didn't see them following you the whole way. They basically...
So they were sneaky following.
Yes.
That makes it even more suspicious.
Yes. That's why when you finally saw them, it's as the turbo lift doors are closing. You're like, wait a minute. Those people were following us. Clink.
Okay, so then I don't really have an opportunity to learn anything else from it if the door is closed.
Correct.
Then I guess we will bank that momentum.
And the turbo lift doors close as you begin to descend to the regional command ops levels.
And as soon as the doors close, I will point it out to everybody else.
Is there anybody on the turbo lift with us?
The four of you and Commodore Pritchard.
Ah.
And he says, regional command.
Are you like, hey, why are we being followed?
Absolutely. As soon as the doors close, knowing that it's just us and Pritchard in the turbo lift, Najjar will say, did you guys notice we were being followed by a security detail? They didn't look like they were station personnel. And he looks inquiringly at Commander Pritchard. Commodore Pritchard.
Commodore Pritchard looks at Najjar. He scowls at the turbo lift door and says, regional command level. And he looks at Tobor and he looks at the rest of you. I'm not authorized to say anything at this point.
That never bodes well.
I will exchange a glance with Commander Tobor at that.
Yeah,
and
Tobor does.
There is that inquiring twitch to the antenna as if to say, are you okay with this?
Tobor gives the curious eyebrow raise, not the oh crap eyebrow raise. Just there's obviously something more going on here than is out in the open yet. He's patiently waiting.
Tanari's antennae are twitching quite a bit.
There's bookies in Vegas right now who are putting out lines as for how many separate theories Tanari has in this moment. Yeah, we'll see what the over-under is when we get to a break later on.
Najjar lacks antennae, but he definitely has a furrowing and relaxing and then refurrowing of his brow, as though if he had antennae, they'd be twitching.
As the turbo lift comes to rest, the computer sounds off with Regional Command Operations. Standing in front of you is, in a newly minted dress uniform, Ensign Asara. And she has a pad in her hand. Pritchard steps out of the turbo lift first. There is additional security personnel, also in formal attire. And they actually take a device off of Pritchard's uniform. It looks like it was something that was sitting right behind his communicator badge. And stepping into the area is a Beta Z with Captain's pips. Asara has been silent at this point, and the captain says, Ensign Asara, I will let you speak with your clients before we begin formal proceedings. Commodore Pritchard, Starfleet Command appreciates your adherence to the orders you were provided.
Sabian just smiles and he's, if I knew we were having a shindig, I would have put on my fancy whites, Captain.
What was the name of the other person that was there? Captain what?
Miru.
Now, this is the Miru from the Akira do I know of them by reputation? I know Ocean did some digging about the ship was suspiciously in town. But
I would certainly allow you a roll. They're a higher level individual, so their name would have passed in circles. There's a strong sense that anybody in command of a vessel may have heard about them. So I would certainly allow that. I would say, again, a 1 difficulty if you'd like to make that roll.
Insight Command, I assume, would be a good trait. I'll just take the 2 dice. 9 plus 5, looking for 14s. Got 2 12s, so 2 successes.
Excellent. So you've got 1 momentum. After I answer the question, again, let me know if that's something you want to utilize in that moment or not. Captain Miru is not only the captain of that particular Akira vessel, they are also in a regional command post for Starfleet security. They are an adjunct to Starfleet headquarters. Not an upper level position, but certainly not a low level position by any means. They have a lot of power, and Miru is known to be a top investigator for Starfleet security. And you have 1 momentum. How would you like to spend or bank that?
I'm going to bank it.
Okay.
For now.
And for the listening audience, we are currently at 12 threat and 3 momentum. With that, the security personnel, 2 of them stand by the turbo lift, the door is shut after everybody exits. Ensign Asara says, if you'd follow me, please. And then she points to a series of offices outside and to the left of the turbo lift.
Follow along.
She walks ahead, the doors open up, she goes in. As long as everybody follows, the door will close behind you. There's basically a conference table. It's not really it's more like a mini conference room. It's not particularly big. It's not particularly spacious. There are not a lot of terminals. This seems to be a pretty naked conference room. There is glass to the outside, so anybody in the primary hall can see who's in there. At which point, once everybody's in and the door shuts, she says, secure legal consultation level 2, please. And with that, the glass frosts over. The door has a small little red light, so it's clear that it's secured. And that's when Asara says, I am officially your counsel. Our conversations are privileged, and this room is secured to allow privileged conversation. So I guess you all have some questions at this point.
I don't, but I'm sure the rest of my crew does.
I'll start with, why do we need counsel?
Officially, no one in this room has been charged with anything. Officially, however, an inquiry has begun. The nature of that inquiry has been classified. In other words, you're about to be questioned at great length without knowing why you're being questioned. I am not even privy to that specifically. You're simply being questioned.
Sorry, did she say that she is not privy to that?
That is exactly what she said.
Okay.
Essentially, you have been called to the local precinct to cooperate with the authorities. As your counsel, you are not at this stage required to answer most questions. If at any point you wonder whether a question should or shouldn't be answered, don't. I will simply respond to all questions as far as whether that's allowed or not allowed. At this time, that will be your notification to speak or not to speak on a given topic. I caution you about speaking on the things that they should not be asking you about. And I caution you about any answers you provide. I will further say that you will not be allowed to consult with each other through this process. After this particular briefing, each of you will be separated into a different room, and they will come to each of you in turn to ask their questions. If I am not present, regardless of who enters a room with you, do not answer questions.
Forgive me, I learned a lot at Starfleet Academy, but I will be honest, all of the regulations of our legal code are both expansive and exhausting. So trusting to your knowledge, certainly there are Starfleet regulations and laws to protect officers from being questioned officially or unofficially on matters that may or may not incriminate themselves without making it clear what the inquiry is about, without letting us know what we're being accused of or investigated for.
Because of the classified nature of the investigation, they've not even indicated that any of you are the subject of the investigation. You could be being asked questions about someone else, which is why they're allowed to do this.
I definitely understand. But if this is being done to the level that they provided us with legal counsel, to me, as an investigator, that's a strong clue that we are under threat by this investigation.
Nobody provided you legal counsel. I am currently on leave for my formal assignment. I'm here because I caught wind of this. I truly believe you are the subject of this investigation. I just don't have the ability to prove it. So I'm going to be here to make sure that your rights are protected for exactly the reasons you just mentioned.
I appreciate that.
It's the least I can do.
And Najar's brow begins to furrow and unfurrow again as his eyes glaze over and he looks like he's lost in thought.
Actually, Ensign, you answered my question earlier about why you were our counsel. Were they really going to send us in here without any sort of representation?
Before you were invited for a tour, the couple of days you've been waiting outside Aslan Station, I was engaged in several motions through Starfleet JAG to insist that you had legal counsel. That was never part of their plan. In order to facilitate getting as many of you here as possible without raising eyebrows, the tour story was concocted. Commodore Pritchard was under relentless surveillance and forbidden from interfering with the inquiry.
Do you have any idea where all of this is coming from?
Unfortunately, I have my limitations as well. Though I am not being monitored, I do wish to preserve the purity of the process, lest we be questioned elsewhere. At this point, I'm going to unsecure the room.
Before you
Each
do
of you
that,
will be in separate rooms, and we will await the questioning.
very good. Before we unsecure the room, though, Ensign,
Yes.
gentlemen, we have, as you are aware, and we're briefed in our classified mission, we have had access to technology that the general public is unaware of. I myself have been thoroughly briefed both by the Commodore and my own legal counsel prior to accepting this command. I'm well aware of all of the Starfleet protocols surrounding our mission and its authorization. If tell the truth and nothing but the truth, and we will get through this. I don't think we personally have anything to fear or any reason to be concerned. Otherwise, they would have come at us at a different angle. This is most likely about the mission and not any particular activity. Though I could be wrong. Mr. Najjar, I see your eyebrow is twitching furiously.
On that front, sir, the exact nature of our full mission is also classified to levels where even people with clearance are not permitted to know. And he glances at our legal counsel briefly before thinks for a moment and then continues. For instance, the unique protocol on our ship and its purpose, along with all of the things that we've been hunting the stars for, my understanding was we're not permitted to speak of those to anyone. How do we answer questions?
You will be provided with a secure pad with sufficient orders and clearance and counter clearance that will enable us to know that the individuals that we're talking to are read in. And if it isn't, refuse to answer it on those grounds. I look at Ensign, I'm like, sound about right for dealing with a classified investigation?
Yes, but I have a sense that the folks who are going to be questioning you have more clearance than you might imagine. With that, she turns to the door. She says, open. The door opens, as obviously the room is unsecured. She says, Commander Tobor, Lieutenant Tanari, and Lieutenant Najjar, if you would follow me. She looks back. Father, I'll return shortly.
That was father to Pritchard?
No, that was father to Ocean.
Yeah, my bad.
Pritchard's not with you. Pritchard was elsewhere. He never entered this room.
So this is Ocean's daughter?
Yes.
I wasn't paying enough attention to completely realize that's who we were talking to her. I might have had to... Oh, well, that's fine. Najjar's been trying to subtly flirt with her. I don't know if Ocean's noticed yet.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll get the rocking chair and the phase rifle to sit on the porch with you. Yeah.
That explains how Najjar dies at the end of the season.
The first mystery of season 3 is who put an Ushan blade in Najjar's back.
This has the Chirilzer family crest on it. I wonder what could have happened.
Given the circumstances, there's not much different that Najjar would have done, but he likely would have given her a more personal greeting and whatnot.
We haven't discussed whether or not Ocean, how much conversation has happened about that. So we'll take that offline and maybe have some fun with it.
Cool.
With that, she leaves, everybody else leaves. You are each brought to other rooms, basically adjacent. And if everybody would be so kind as to roll a d20, that's going to let us know who gets questioned first.
Am I allowed to spend threat to buy more dice?
You are not. Sure. What am I saying? What am I saying? Of course you can spend threat. You can use threat to buy additional dice, or a reroll in this case. Have at it.
I rolled a 1.
That's good. That's a critical success. This is 2d20.
No.
Hey, Lee,
Yes, sir.
13.
Excellent. And Adam?
I rolled a 10.
10?
Yeah.
And Joe?
19.
Excellent. First of all, no complications. Y'all are lucky. I was really hoping for a complication. But in this case, we're going to go to Lieutenant Najjar first.